Okay, so it's hard to explain what's happened here. It's hard to hear me as well and probably see me. Um, so I listen to a little bit of noise music and I kind of let it fester in my life. So usually what you do is you take some bleach and you scrub it real hard so your hands are red and infected and just irritated like noise music, and then eventually it'll go away and you're safe for a while. But see, I forgot to do that for a while. I got a little sick, as you can tell by my upload rate. I got a little sick, got a little bit of coronavirus, whatever, and now it's like it kind of festered, and now it won't go away. Please, somebody explain to me why I keep doing this, why I keep listening to noise music. All right, get ready for musical nerds. We're gonna go through some of Noise's more nuanced, like stuff like the history, what characterizes it, stuff like that. So noise is more of it's a style, but it's more of an aspect of other styles. It's more sound based. It's more like creating a soundscape of noise music. Generally, a region where it's very prominent in is Japan. Japan has a huge noise rock scene and a huge just noise scene in general. It started as an art movement actually in 1919. Noise started a lot earlier than most people think. It started as an art movement, kind of like punk did, and it later the art style later kind of fumbled into surrealism and fluxus art movements. Noise music is generally pretty like synonymous with extreme volume and a lot of distortion and just generally being more experimental. So some other genres that you'll hear noise in a lot is industrial techno, lo-fi music, black metal, sludge, death metal, grindcore, and glitch music. They all employ some noise-based materials. So some people think that noise has basically stayed in the outside of what most people would consider like theorists or just basically people who are really into noise and went to school for it or whatever it is. But actually no, noise has been in the thoughts of a lot of like higher end society kind of people. For instance, Raymond Murray Schafer, he is a Canadian composer, writer, music critique, and stuff like that, just very into music, has kind of categorized noise, which is ironic, into a couple different kinds of noise. There's unwanted noise, unmusical noise, loud sounds, and disturbance in any signaling system, such as static on a telephone. And the definitions have changed a lot in regards to noise. For instance, Ludwig van Beethoven, fucking Beethoven. A lot of audience said at the time that it just sounded like noise, a lot of his compositions. So you could say that noise has been around since like the 18th, 17th century. Of course, not everyone in higher society for music has always been a fan of noise. For instance, some noted cultural critics, I'm going to flash their names up because I'm not pronouncing like half of these names, but all these old fucks, basically they have works tracing to the history of noise in which they define noise as intrusive, unwanted, lacking of skill, not being appropriate, and a threat of emptiness. Noise is more of an aesthetic in terms of what the soundscape of the project is going to be. It's not necessarily a musical genre as much as it is kind of the descriptor of what the musical genre sounds like almost. When you say noise infused or straight noise or whatever it is, it's more of a descriptor and less of a set genre almost. And with the oncoming of the digital era, there's more ways and more kinds of noise than ever. So time for some extreme nerdiness. Let's get into some history stuff. So get out your pen and paper, kids. It's gonna be a pop quiz. The Art of Noise is a manifesto written by Luigi Russolo, who is an Italian futurist artist in the early 20th century. 1913 is when this memoir was written. If you're wondering where I'm getting all this information, it's Wikipedia. If you have a fucking issue with it, we're not in high school. I understand that Wikipedia is not always 100% accurate, but it'll get you in the ballpark, okay? Please don't tell my teacher, okay? I need a really good grade on this essay. If please don't tell them that I'm using Wikipedia. They'll give me an F. The Art of Noises, which was written during the time of the Industrial Revolution, was given the modern man a greater capacity to appreciate more complex sounds, basically. Russolo found traditional melodic music can find an envisioned noise music as its future replacement. And he was also a musician. He had an ensemble and orchestra play music that he had written. For instance, in 1917, a performance of his Grand Concerto Futuristico, I'm not pronouncing any of that right, excuse my fat American tongue. It was met with strong disapproval and violence from the audience. Imagine playing music and the audience getting violent because of how much they hate it. Oof, that's gotta suck, buddy. But Russolo predicted this to happen. Although Russolo's work has very little resemblance to contemporary noise music such as Japan noise, his efforts helped to introduce noise as a musical aesthetic and broaden the perception of sound from an artistic medium, which is important, like I was saying. A lot of people have also used the experimentalness of found sounds. So instead of making your own noise, taking other people's works and then bending it and reworking it to have its own noise influenced style. So kind of think of it as sampling. But that's gonna end the nerding out segment of this. So we're gonna get back to my dumb face talking. So now that we've gone through some of the history of noise music and stuff, we're going to talk about kind of the theoretical reasons why noise music is good. Because you've got enough of a nerd history lesson, now you can at least kind of try to appreciate at least a little bit more why noise music is great. See, writing music, there's a standard to it. It's like, sometimes realism is cool, Like, let's use this metaphor. Realism in art for, like, painting on canvas. It looks sick. It's cool. But sometimes I want to look at a child's finger painting and think, what was he thinking about? Yes, nap time. Yes. We can all relate to that one. Am I right, fellow Zoomers? And so having noise kind of always be in the underground, kind of always moving and shaking things up is good because it lays way to new trends and new kinds of facets of music that were never really thought of before until some random noise artist came around and like lifted it up out of the dirt and showed everyone like, hey, this is pretty cool, like roots and all, this is pretty sick, right? And then people pick it up and then don't give him credit and then he gets sad, obviously. And noise isn't always just pure unadulterated, like just sometimes it's a bit more listenable, and sometimes they take some of it and they try to mash it into other genres, and it kind of gets renamed experimental, which is what it is. But you also hear some noise infused or noise influenced. There's another couple different terms for it. So you hear that like with certain artists like Death Grips, Clipping, 100 gecs, Sea Space Cowboy, Sleep Sculptor, Nails, a lot of like extreme anti-music metal, and a lot of kind of weirder rap you'll hear it with. You don't really go into too many other genres other than electronic music as well, but you'll hear it in like a bunch of other genres, just little tidbits of that kind of stuff. Like at the end of most 100 gecs songs, there's just a lot of random noise and bass that suddenly hits, like a Money Machine, for instance. We'll have that at the very end if you go ahead and listen to it. So it's kind of interesting to see like the influences it has and kind of how much of it creeps into other genres, which I think is always really interesting and really cool to see other genres kind of mingling like a singles date night, And it's also just like taking the exact opposite approach to what most music is. Most music is, we make this genre music, and then we write song like this. We write verse, chorus, bridge, verse, chorus, outro, and then that's how you get a song. But what noise does is it's just kind of like, yeah, so throw all that bullshit out, then we take our stuff, we make it as lo-fi and unlistenable and weird as possible, and then we just that's the album. And that's how a lot of noise artists write. And I think it's cool. I think it's great. Some of the stuff is pretty unlistenable. Like, I love Merzbow, for instance. He's a Japanese noise artist that's been making music for decades. Has like I think something like over 100 studio albums. Just an incredible musician. Has done a lot of like really important, influential things for music nowadays. I generally wouldn't just kind of bump Merzbow off the top of my head, like it's kind of what noise is, which is just a lot of well, noise. Some related artists for people who are looking for just pure noise, experimental stuff, mixed genre stuff is Merzbow, Clipping, Death Grips, Throbbing Gristle, Nails, Magrood Grind, Sleep Sculptor, Dominic Furnow, KK Knoll, and 100 Gex. You'll also see this logo quite a bit, the anti-music movement, and it's just basically what it stands for is music is so structured and it's so like almost factory made, like a really crisp iPhone X, you know. So what noise does is it takes that and it does the thing where it's like, hey guys, did you know you could bend your iPhone? And then they start just bending it a shitload and it's breaking. People are like, no, wait, stop. And they're like, no, keep bending it. We must see how far it can go. That's kind of what noise music does, is it just takes the standards and structure of music and it just bends the shit out of it until it's almost unrecognizable. And that's what the anti-music movement is. It's compiled of stuff like grindcore, like porno grind, stuff like some extreme death metal, noise music, experimental music, some like rap. It's a lot of just stuff that's basically has no structure or exact reason for existing, and they just go for it. Some people argue that punk is part of the anti-music movement, although I kind of hesitate on that, specifically because punk does have a structure. As much as we like to be like, oh, we don't have a structure, we're just like you. It's kind of like the Steve Buscemi character, the how do you do, fellow kids. We definitely kind of come into that scene. Again, I would kind of hesitate to say we're part of the anti-music movement, although we're very adjacent to it and obviously very supportive. It also, like, as a musician, you have to have a certain level of knowledge about music and love for music to kind of take everything you've learned, all this theory, all this, like, what sounds good, all these chords, all of this kind of knowledge that you have for something that you greatly love and care about, and then you have to make a big fucking brain play to just chuck it out the goddamn window of a moving semi, because it takes a lot to be able to just kind of force your brain to, when you start writing something, to stop writing a structure and be like, no, bad brain, bad big brain, you must be small brain. You have to kind of break yourself. It's almost like boot camp before musicians. So basically it's like, hey, take these drugs, don't do anything else, get really drunk, and then just write stuff that's completely incoherent and almost improvisational sounding, and then just fucking go with it. It's definitely bled into all kinds of music, like I was saying before. It's bled into like a bunch of core genres. It's bled into every metal genre at least a little bit. It's bled into a lot of rap as well, especially nowadays. Rap is basically kind of the number one noise infused genre that's been going on lately. It's bled into a lot of R&B, or some R&B. It's bled into indie even. It's bled into a lot of genres that you would kind of expect. It's genres that are bigger, that are a little bit more malleable and a little bit more loose around with the rules, so that you can kind of just make whatever with it. Like, you don't hear a lot of noise artists being also folk musicians, although that would be interesting. Please, if anyone knows anything, please send me something. That sounds amazing. Purposely untraditional in this sense is very good. It is good that noise artists are here trying to do something different with their music. Doing the same thing over and over again creates oversaturation. And when oversaturation is created, it leaves a door in a vacuum open for something bigger or better, for something that people aren't exactly ready for, and it kind of seems like it comes out of nowhere. If you want to look at it in the eye of sports or esports, for instance, let's look at Melee. Super Smash Bros. Melee. If anyone of you doesn't know, I'm a huge fan of Super Smash Bros. It's kind of the only real esport I watch besides some Tekken and stuff like that. When looking at Melee, there's a joke of 20XX. 20XX is because Fox is probably the best character in the game. When the 20XX is when everybody is so proficient at Melee, when Melee is such a figured out game, everybody will be forced to switch to Fox, because otherwise you were just hindering yourself at that point. So that's what 20XX is. No one will play any other character. It's just Fox Dittos all the time. When that happens, if that were to happen, that means that everybody's just practicing the Fox Ditto, basically. Nobody's practicing anything else. So say some unnamed person, like let's use Amza for instance, like that's kind of happening right now. Amza and like let's say Axe as well. Some people who come out of nowhere with some kind of characters that have been mostly forgotten about. They come out of nowhere and they just completely destroy the competition because nobody has been practicing the matchup against Yoshi or against Pikachu. And they come out and destroy everybody because there's been a void there of nobody else being able to really do anything except for fighting Fox. So that's why I think noise is important. That's why I think everybody should at least have some knowledge of noise music and should at least try to go in to noise with an open mind and try to at least slightly understand. You don't have to like fucking bump in on like when your boys are like, yo, put on some tunes. You don't have to throw down the Mers Battle, throw down the Dominic Furnow stuff. You just just acknowledge its existence, thank its existence, and give a couple listens to some of these artists. You might like what they've influenced, you might like some of this stuff. Like for instance, there are rumors that people who have worked close with David Bowie that Death Grips was a huge inspiration on Black Star, which was David Bowie's last album. And so just sit here and ponder that for a second. Death Grips fucking influenced David Bowie. You know how insane that is? Like what kind of society we have to live in, because we live in a society that Death Grips can influence fucking David Bowie. He's David Bowie. Like that's insane to me. And the fact that this is all possible because of the noise genre. Once again, I'm gonna come over. I'm gonna go kiss the toes of the noise musicians in the world. Thank you for the work you've done. Thank you for always trying to break the boundaries in music. Thank you for always trying to stretch what we know as music. And thank you for always pushing the envelope forward with music. Without you, music would have gotten stagnant a long time ago, and we wouldn't have all the wondrous things we have now. So thank you. If you like this video, thank you as well. If you're new to this channel, subscribe. I promise I don't generally take breaks that big, but I got sick and I got really busy with college and stuff, so I've just been kind of relaxing. But if you want to go through my back catalog, I have a lot of stuff there, and so give it a try. But if you're new here, sub. If you like the video, like it. If you have something to say to me, say it to my face. As always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you discover some new music today. Have a good day.